would you say that Meta should just like light everybody on fire? Is that right? They should just burn all their developers? Was that what
Yep.
it was?
I mean, so Meta announced 13% of their employees will be laid off, so 11K employees. But a lot of these people are remote, so they should just do it over Meta. Gotta experience it
For
in VR.
once, actually use it for one time. Hey,
Yeah.
actually use it for one time. Oh, seriously, dude, it's just like Twitter, Facebook,
There you go.
YouTube gaming, Netflix gaming's gone. Stadia could go fuck itself.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
No,
it's finally gone.
think about it. Like this year for major tech gaming platforms or gaming hubs has gone downhill pretty hardcore, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I think as as I keep reading online, all of the engineers are like, well, it was unsustainable. It's like, yeah, probably, most likely in general, but it
You
still
know what's
sucks to see.
oh, I was gonna say another sector that went down was crypto and NFTs. Like, at least back in May, any project just got funding, and now they're all gone.
Yeah, good. You know what I mean? In all honesty, like good. It was incredible. Like I worked with one team, and I was like, "You guys have never built a game before, but have somehow gotten like 6.9 million in funding." It's like,
Yes. Yeah.
"Ah, right, okay, cool, all right." Like,
Yep.
interesting. But I tell you, the big thing there, the big news is that weirdly enough, Reddit's ecosystem, right, like where all NFTs and everything are all dropping off and have dropped off, right? Like OpenSea's, I think,
Yeah.
like 93% like engagement down or something like that from the previous year. Reddit's ecosystem's bigger now than OpenSea, just for their
That's
own NFT platform. So I don't know. It's a bunch of bloody nerds out there that just like shiny little avatars, and it's back to cosmetics, and here we are. So I don't know. I think the thing is that sustainability is is always is there. I think it is there as a thing. It's just that it's not it's found stability yet, right? Like in, hey, what's the right way to do this? What's the wrong way to do this? But also, who's the right people to be doing this at the same time, too, right? Um, but I don't know. Would you buy a Reddit avatar for $500? Would you?
No. Nope.
Near would I. Like, I just have no. And, like, maybe this is like. Look, this is me being not incredulous, but just like in general. Like, I got older. I never really cared for any of these social platforms or wanting to be out there. My Instagram is very anonymous in terms of like the even the picture I have is that of the shadow of me on a wall, right? Like, I never cared to put these things out, and that's a whole portion of the population that I'm not in, and to be honest, like that hurts my profile or whatever, right? Like if you wanted to expand out and you want to be able to be seen and do all of those things, like those are the places to be, and everybody will tell you, what I mean, go get your stuff out there and do it. But I don't know, like the idea of going onto Twitter over the past however amount of years and writing a post on every single thing that you see, or you know I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, who's got the fucking time, dude? I'm scrolling for kitties and dogs. Like, that's what I'm here for, right? I'm not here for much else.
Dude, I just found a Twitter account. It was called like Chonky Animals X, and it's just all fat animals running around. I mean, yeah, you're right. That was all I was looking at as well. But you're absolutely right. Discord's easier for me because it's just like a normal chat room. But yeah, the idea of sharing your thoughts constantly. I mean, that's a culture shift, and the younger people are usually easier to do that.
Yeah. It is funny to see like music in general. If you look at the Spotify numbers, just the younger artists that you've never heard of before, like just keep popping up, popping up, popping up. Like, so these people have like I saw one that had 990 something thousand monthly listeners, and I was like, I've literally never heard of this person, never seen any of their music videos, never seen any of their things, but complete independent underground thing, and it's like, oh, okay, great, like good for them. But I think that, yeah, exactly what you're saying. That portion of the population engages much harder into all of those things, and I got a little taste of that last weekend at Playcrafting NYC in New York City. It was fun. It was fun. Just a 1 day event. Trying to shell our card game Batsu. It was entertaining enough. But I was talking to a couple of the different Twitch streamers, and we were just kind of discussing like platforms, right, and integrations and stuff like that. And there are the ecosystem is a lot deeper than what it used to be, right? There never used to be this ability to link the game directly to the stream as much as there is now, and in so many different creative ways. Like I think before, for me, it was like, hey, do you want to keep playing this game? No? Okay, yes, maybe. Okay, great. But now it's like actual levers and game settings that completely can be manipulated purely based off of the live stream itself, which, direct communication to your game client right from the cloud. And I think that's incredible, and has obviously a ton of potential outside of just general Twitch drops and everything else like that, which, the problem used to be when these things first came out was that they were always just for the few. They were never opened up as like a thing that anybody could do, because they were just being, they were just feature onboarding, right? So of course you give it to your best groups first and see how they perform, and then make it work, and then theoretically then roll it out to to the plebes, to the plebeians afterwards, right? But I think that I mean, maybe it is still like that, but it's made me realize just how much I lack the knowledge of those things. I have to go really hardcore and do some research. Like, one game that they were talking about, and it's a game that I need to play as well, was like, what's that Lambs game that came out? It's not Silence of the Lambs.
Cult of Lamb.
Cult of Lamb, where they can, if you're subscribed and you're inside of the stream, when that streamer finds new lambs, some of them will have names of the people in chat. So it's like, oh, okay, if you're gonna go sacrifice them, it's like you can pick and choose what person you want to sacrifice. And I think that's a great like meta thing, right, too, because it really does give that kind of god complex at the same time, and it can have some engagement within the actual Twitch staff, or the Twitch stream itself too, and mix that in with like channel points and bits and being able to vote for those things. I think you have a different side of it. I don't know what the revenue stream is there though. You know what I mean?
I was just wondering it. I was just thinking that, because one of the games I've seen is a game called Cluster Truck. And all you do is it looks like an endless runner. There's a bunch of trucks lined up, and you just jump from them one to another. And I remember it went viral because it had the Twitch integration, and the developers of the game itself came into a Twitch stream and then messed with the guy, and like beyond what the other people could even do, because they had the whole API. So that was an example, but I just looked at it. Cluster Truck's all-time peak was apparently 14 or 1,500 players. So it's hard to tell like how much this moves the needle, because if you're having fun messing with the stream, that doesn't mean you're gonna buy it. It just means you love the streamer, and you're just like interacting with him.
Ooh,
so.
That's actually so true, right? So like, yes, you are putting in a. So if we think about the effort to output ratio, right? Like, what I mean, it's a good medium effort to go and integrate a lot of these Twitch features into your stream, but really the impact by itself might be very minimal, or it might be huge, right? Because the thing is like, let's say if just in that case, right? Let's just say that all-time peak was even 300 users in one stream. Well, that's one person playing and 300 eyeballs. So if you get a conversion ratio there of, let's say, 24%, right? Like, let's say 24% of that 300 go and actually go and, I'm throwing fucking wild numbers out here and saying that I can do the math in my head, and I'm not going to do it. Not a chance in the goddamn world, but
We sound smart though.
yeah, right. But no. But just think about it. Think about it as like a quarter of the users or something. It's not usually a quarter of the users, but like let's say like an eighth of the users go and like convert, right? Like that's an eighth of users that then have converted into sales. And then if one or two of those then are the bigger streamers or anything else, well then possibly then that's another 300 eyeballs and another 16% conversion if they can show that the game is fun and everything else like that. But there is a catch 22 there, right? Because are you actually necessarily playing the game, right? The way that a single player would intend for you to play the game? Or are you building a game that is based off of the Twitch ecosystem and that you should be playing it on Twitch and that's the funnest way to play it? And if that's the case, well, you've kind of subset then who's going to be able to buy your game, and once they do buy it, do they have remorse because they're not getting that fun? And
Right.
if they
All
go
the chaos, yeah.
and if they go to stream, they get nobody. They get one viewer. They get themselves, like me, like all the time. Every time I would ever try to do it, you sit there for 2 hours, 3 hours, just talking to yourself with one viewer, and it's just you talking to yourself the whole time. You're just
Maybe even a bot.
maybe even a bot. My God. Side note: those are the fucking shout out to all those people who are trying to do those things because it's soul crushing and destroying. You're just there the whole time, just like, I just gotta keep talking. I don't know if anybody's in the thing. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm not there for them. I'm doing it for myself. Like it's just like a nightmare, an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You mean so this is the thing is I think that I've shied away from these things because it's never felt like traditional games. But speaking to some of these people, Batsu by itself, the Steam version that I've been working on for a while, and it's up on Steam. I got a client up there. I just haven't released it because we don't feel like that it's like it's work. It does what it says on the tin. It's the card game on PC. But there's no flair. There's no fun. There's no particles. There's no real big animations. There's it's just the straight thing. So how can you liven up that experience but also then build that into something that could be played on that platform? And it's supposed to be social, right? So like Jackbox style games is what always comes to mind as like my like top moniker of these things. But how do we make that as a Twitch experience and make that more fun, but also like build in some barriers so that people just can't come in and troll or do anything in those sides, you know what I mean, too. It's hard. It's a difficult situation, but I think just in general, like enabling users to play with their favorite content creators or whatever in like a safer manner is a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. It's just I don't know. It's like it's hard to believe the ROI, because then also like I think the thing is like because the payment structure is a little bit skewed or at least side offed, right? When I was speaking to these people, they were saying that they actually have deals, right? So like if you're spending channel points or if somebody's spending channel points to do it, well then the streamer gets a revenue for all of the channel points that are spent. But if you actually build a deal with that streamer, you can say, well, 2% of that revenue is mine, right? Like, and because I built this or I'm integrated all of this stuff like and built the APIs on Twitch and everything to deal with that. And I was surprised about that to hear it, that was the case. But if it is, then it's like, okay, well then maybe then there is like a play of worthwhileness at the same time there too. And I guess it all depends on what your goals are. Is your goals to like be the funnest thing that you can be and not really worry about the revenue or whatever and just hope that people just buy the base game? But again,
Sure, yeah.
if the base game is then people are watching an experience that's not based off of the base game, it's based off of like a augmented version of that, then like how true to life does it end up being? So
Yeah, and I had a question about Batsu show itself. So the card game is based on a game show format of sorts, a comedy one. And how much audience participation does the live show have? Is it kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway, where they grab a lot of prompts from the audience? How does that work?
Yeah, prompts from the audience, but people are getting pulled up on stage all the time.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so great. So they had 2 birthday parties at the same time, and they'd sorted this out beforehand, right? But they did a sake relay race with the 2 birthday parties. So they pulled 4 people up on stage, and you had to go over, shoot your sake, put it over your head, run over to this basket, pick up this big large egg, put it between your legs, run down from the stage into the audience, hit a bell, run back, and then drop the egg into the basket, and then the next person could go. And losing team gets hit Japanese game show style. And it was a lot of fun to see like things like that. Basic face-offs, right? Just like, hey, here's this group, and then here's this group, and they did a decent amount of that. And and you mean just shots in the crowd as well too. It's like if you see somebody who's like and they're clinking. That happened to me, and I dropped my shot. I was right beside the stage, Calvin. I'm right beside the stage. I have a full shot of sake. The host of the show has a full shot of sake. It's all live, right? And they hit, and the fucking thing slips out of my fingers.
Hey man, it was a lot of pressure.
And it just goes, just showers the whole front row in sake, yeah. And it was like, oh, grandpa! And everybody comes over. It's like 3-4 people just like, wipe, just clean it off. Yeah, it was embarrassing. That was pretty embarrassing. He was saying in 1,100 shows, that's never happened before. And I was
my God.
It would be me. It would definitely be me.
Nice. Man, no, that sounds fun, and that's some really good points. I haven't really thought about audience participation too much, and from the ones that I have seen, it's usually like, they throw in a modifier into the game and maybe get their name in as a shout out. But yeah, I wonder if there are more like really deeper integrations, including more Whose Line Is It Anyway, where they give like a serious prompt, that sort of stuff. There is potential for sure.
Absolutely. Like we have person, place, or thing cards to help build basically like the scene, right? To set the scene. So you have things like secret agent person as a challenge, whereas like you have to pick everybody needs to pick one thing card, and they have to kill a villain with that card, and sorry, not specifically with the card, but like with whatever the item is, the thing on the card. So let's say, and then say a cheesy line a la like 007 or Arnold Schwarzenegger after the fact, right? And worst loses. So like somebody had like a Dorito chip, right? And then they like take it out and they fucking flung it like a ninja star, right? And then said some like, I hope you like it mild, right? Like some
nice.
Dumb stuff like this, right? I think that things like that, when we're talking about the Twitch integration, like, hey, is that a suggestion, right? Like instead of like maybe going to the cards, like could somebody inject for bits an actual thing into the thing? So could they type it out, right? Like extra large dildo or some shit, right? Like something that we definitely don't have in the deck, right? So I think that those things could definitely be things that get integrated and but again, I gotta look into this. I think that I'm recognizing just how much I don't really know. And then TikTok gaming now is apparently obviously huge, or not obviously huge, but TikTok gaming now is like a whole live streaming thing, and that's now become quite large. And look, I don't know, man. I get weird whenever I touch the TikTok. I'm not doing it. It's so strange to me to get onto that thing. So I don't know. I gotta put my biases aside, I guess, and not worry about my personal data or being tracked or having my data sent to a foreign government. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I hear. I think TikTok just recently added some new tab specifically for gaming, and in terms of like as an advertising platform for games, it is in the top 5 now, which is
yes,
nobody knew that before. But to kind of pull back a little bit and talk about something general is you do have to recognize what moves the needle. When you are like really unfamiliar for a space, you do tend to get. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in even misinformation. You're like, oh man, we need to implement this because everyone else is doing this. We should definitely do this, and then you might not recognize that the companies that are doing this have certain advantages that you don't, that allow them to do it. And if you take a year to implement something and then suddenly it doesn't move the needle, that's you just wasted time and money. So
absolutely.
yeah, this is such a general topic that you should always think about. And this is the one thing is for indie games, something that gets talked about a lot is these live booth events. Like, you know, back in the day, speaking of like the old school stuff, it was E3.
Yeah.
E3 was the greatest show on earth. Like everyone tuned into it. You opened your GamePro magazine to listen to read about what happened at
Oh God,
E3.
I'm old. You're totally right,
Yeah,
Toby. You're totally right.
yeah. That was the thing, and then booth events, obviously with the internet, started to be well. I think they were still popular for a while, but then at some point, especially E3 got watered down more, and people started caring about different shows. And then with the pandemic, there were no shows, and then I don't know even what I don't even know how effective they are right now at all. And I don't know if you have any insight on how that might have shifted.
Yeah, it's weird, right? So like we went to our Batsu by itself, right? Was PAX Seattle earlier in the year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we did well there. I think we sold like 200 copies or something like that, right? Foot traffic is great. You got a couple of floors. There's lots of individuals, but there's B2B business connections that you can make there and B2C, that you need to be, cognizant about. But the booth prices are huge, right? Like we're talking like a couple of grand just to get there, get in, then hotels, then all of the things that you need to support your booth, like the tall 8-foot banners that you'd want to bring, like all of the flyers that you want, like QR codes that you want for like your link trees and all of this other stuff, right? Um, Everything costs money, and at some point you're like, well, I'm probably in the hole more than anything else, right? Like every single time we go to one of these things, it's like, can we even break even? Like, you
Sure.
know, so you gotta think about like what is the life of just that. You know what I mean? It's like you're not necessarily going to just sell copies and hope that you're gonna make some money because you're probably just gonna. Hey, maybe you don't. Maybe a lot of people go in and just like do really really well. I'm just one data point, but we go in with this idea of like, oh shit, we're not really gonna. I mean, we're gonna maybe break even. I don't know. And usually we don't. So usually we owe money at the end of the whole thing. And the same thing now. We're gonna be at PAX Unplugged in December in Philadelphia, 3 floors. And we'll be at the top deck, in as part of a bigger booth, called Dara Studios, which is like the company that is helping us publish, or not really publish, right, but helping us push the game at these different conventions and stuff like that too. But it is difficult to say the least, but those places are also where the business connections are going to be. And that's the biggest thing for us, right? If you want to get into the big box retail stores, you have to be known. You have to be known. You have to have some sort of name or some sort of thing. And we're seeing it more and more, the shows that we go to, with people being like, weren't you at this? Weren't you at that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and and then you're just grabbing cards and just talking to people, and then you set up some meetings after the fact. I have a Calendarly link that I send out to all the media people and just say, hey, like, meet me at this place, and if you don't have time, like, set up a meeting after the fact, and we can talk, and just building better relationships with these individuals over time should help you to, one, like, unlock some of those connections to other groups, but also to, like, maybe get some more favorable press within different areas too. I think getting the name out is larger than anything else. You know what I mean? But the hope is that at least if you're at the PAX, you're at the things, you can still get that. You can theoretically, hopefully, find some of those distributors within the crowds because they're there, right? They are there. They're looking for their next thing that they're going to put in an order for 5,000 copies and have on shelves, in the next season. So taking it with a grain of salt, it's like you're not just there for the customer, for an individual B2C sale. You are there for the B2B, and the price of admission is kind of what you're a little bit paying for there too. So I think that those things are important framings if you can make the most of it, right? Making the most of it. But, they're all day events. They're all day events, and you have to be happy and the whole day, right? And it's hard. It's challenging. It's really challenging work.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think I mean, there's so many success stories. Like people will be like, oh yeah, we just had a demo at PAX, and then, yeah, it just led us to rocket to stardom or whatever. But I think you do need to go in with the expectation that this is a foundation that you're building over a long period of time. So I think for probably a lot of people, you're not going to get your return on investment as much as you might think. But there's definitely ways to go about it. So you're right. I think it really depends on your skill in networking.
Yeah.
I think this applies to almost everything that's related to social events. And this is very similar to GDC. So GDC, the Game Developers Conference, is the most famous and probably largest like game dev conference.
Yeah,
I
it's
do know
our conference.
Yeah,
It's the only conference that is our conference.
Yeah. I get a lot of people that ask me, it's like, hey, should I go to GDC? There's all these good talks. Am I going to learn a ton? And for that, no, sadly, the answer is no. Because those talks are, they're online. When you sit there in person, you technically, I would say you do absorb information better because you're not looking at your side browsers and jumping around. But it is not worth it if you're going to go there. You go to GDC to network. And so the value of GDC is totally based on your networking ability. So it sounds like the booth events to me are very similar to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a bit of elitism and stuff like that around there too, and all of those things, right? Like, and those things happen, right? You're there representing this game, but you might be, some depending on how big your booth is or how big your game, that particular game is, you know what I mean? It's not like you have your resume in front of you, you know what I mean? It's not like you have anything. You're just representing this, so it's like that's what you do, right? And then you get a bunch of the bigger game studios might come around and they have a little bit of a different, the different feel when they're walking around, right? They walk on water a little bit more. So but it's not about who's the elite and who's not. It's just a matter of like, exactly, can you make those connections? Can you be personable, and can you get in front of people? As long as you can make an impression, then you're in the right, or like you're doing something. Now, whether or not any of those things come of anything is a whole different story, and 99% of the time they don't. But the fact of that you shared the thing, shared the contact, and that you could pull that type of thing down the line or follow up about it later on or something like that, like those things are great moments, right? That's why the after parties exist. That's why it's the whole kind of point that people are supposedly there for as well too.
This is the only reason we're even doing this podcast in the first place, is because I went, I would drive up to your meetups, and we would also catch each other at these random Denver events, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, you know what, this guy's pretty cool, maybe we should talk. So yeah, networking is a slow grind, but it's almost always worth it.
Absolutely. Now the thing is right, there are levels to this, right? Um, so let's just talk about this. Have you ever you've done a Denver Game Indie Expo, have you?
Yeah, I've done these booth events
Yeah.
before.
So like those are they're pretty small. They're in a bar, you know. They're just some tables in a bar, and maybe you get like 30, 40 people or something to come in and everything. You know, I think the weekend we probably in one day saw like maybe 140 people like coming over, right? We sold 31 copies of the game, which actually was better than what we did last year over a 3-day event. Over the 3-day event, I think we only sold about 27 copies. So, so 31's still better. It's not perfect by any means, but 31 at $20 a pop is still like money, you know what I mean? But it doesn't pay for your booth, it doesn't pay for your food, hotels, anything else like that, especially in New York City, for God's sake. So, what what do you think is like the value proposition of going to some of these smaller ones, Like we
Yeah.
have Wattfest, right, for CU Atlas Labs, right? Cool little event. Great for students, great for just getting stuff. But nobody knows about, nobody really, nobody like the B2B people are really there looking at that. But there are some people who are larger individuals that would be at these things too. Is it mostly just exposure? Is it just about the experience of just doing it? Because I think that that's, to me, is kind of big by itself. But is that the only thing? Is it?
So yeah, now that you mentioned that, I wasn't even thinking about the practice and whatnot, but I will say, so to give some context, I made a game that's 8 players. It's a very accessible 8-player game, and there's a quick revive mechanic. So when you die, anybody can just run over you and revive you. So it's a very cooperative game, and it's also very loud. People are always screaming when they play this game. So my game design came to fruition because that's what I wanted. So it usually ends up being like the loudest game or the loudest booth at one of these events, which also draws people in.
Huge, yeah.
So I'm in a kind of nice situation, but I will say that gave me a lot of confidence. So that's one thing. I have a lot of confidence being the loudest and coolest booth at an expo. So that is one thing about the practice. But as for the value, there's a interesting phenomenon, I guess. A lot of people don't necessarily remember me, but I'll be like, "Hey man, I'm the guy that made Die Skate or Die." And he's like, "Oh, you made that game? Yeah, I remember you." So that's been like the easiest value for me. It is making the next show connection. It's also helping people remember you. One more side thing about that. I have a friend that has been to a few of these events that I was at, and he'll be like, "Hey, do you remember me? I played Die Skate or Die with you." Like he was using the game also as a vehicle to help connect and remember. So that is the biggest value I've seen from the indie side of things. Because you're not gonna exactly sell more copies or anything
Yeah.
at these smaller things, but man, you should do it.
Yeah, I think you should do it. I think it is cool. If nothing else, it gets you more practiced at talking about your game, and also just seeing how players play your game in these things or react to it in general, right? I've seen loads of people just like snub up their nose at Swing Striker and other things, but I feel you on the loudness side though too, right? When Swing Striker is like a 4-player soccer game, so when we were at Playcrafting last year and at Watt and stuff like that last year, whenever the game was kind of close or like it was kind of going on, I'd be shot calling the score outs, right? So I'd be like, 1 minute left, 1 goal, let's do this, let's go blue team, right? And then people want to see a competitive game, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the game becomes competitive. The players actually go,
Yeah, there
like
you go. You're
straight-
providing the stakes.
yeah, exactly, right? So it's not just that they're just there playing and they have no nonsense. It's like it tries to rise the tension between them and the room, but while also kind of calling over to the attachment that like, hey, like something cool is happening here. Like something in the moment is happening over here. And if you can do that enough, then you can also bring in the crowd for the next game. So the next group of people start lining up behind, right? That game is just about to end, and they're watching, and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay, cool. Oh, okay, you wanna, okay, all right, sweet." And then that group is like, they'll rock out, and then you set up for the next. Then the next group is already there and ready to go, and you're not waiting now to like bring
Yeah.
over more people, because the thing is, lulls at the booth is like killer. Like you want to make sure that people are constantly funneled to the point of sale at all times, right? And then as soon as those people go out, you go and say, "Hey, thank you so much. What'd you guys think? Cool, awesome. Hey, if you liked it, here's our big 8-foot side banner. Here's the QR code for the wish list. Please, we love it. We would love it if you could. If you like the game, just wish list it. Really genuinely helps us out. Blah, 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 blah. Even if you're not going to get it later on, just like get it so that you know and enjoy it, right? And you'll see that, and you'll see some good engagement there. But then you've already got the next group that's already in, and then the cycle kind of continues. Batsu by itself, we are a little hated at these conventions.
Oh.
So we have a gong.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
We literally have a gong.
Yeah.
And our elevator pitch is all about, hey, if you buy the copy today, you get the honor of ringing the gong. And we'll scream in Japanese like 3, 2, 1, and we'll then they'll ring the thing and we'll go Batsu and everything, and everybody claps, right? So every time we get a sale, somebody is ringing the gong.
That is funny. I totally understand, because in my game, I just have sped up Linkin Park music playing at all time. So whenever I would see the other guys at a later event, I'd be like, "Hey man, I'm really sorry about like all the Linkin Park you had to hear for 8 hours straight." So I totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, we had security guards around us that had to stand there all day, just listening to bong, bong.
Oh my god,
bong,
yeah.
bong.
That is funny.
And the whole convention hall can hear it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're like da da da, bong. Just everybody's
I like it.
things.
Hey,
But
I like it.
yeah, we don't give a shit because it works, and it's this is the thing is like I will also say, and that's really important here is that what I kind of recognized after this event was that the sales pitch is so important. Like if you're going to these events, don't just go and talk about your game. Like if somebody comes over and says, "Hey, tell me about your game," have something prepared. Like you need to think of it as these telemarketer salespeople that that just cold call people, right? They have a sheet in front of them with a spiel that has been refined, that gets people excited, that has beats and notes into it, that gets people on the ball and into your world and listening to you. And for us, like the gong is a big part of that. For us, little things like the story is a big part of that. If I bring up, I wish that you could see this. Was I not able to send it to you? Probably wasn't able to send it to you, bud. But I'll just bring up this movie here for a sec, right? And can I share my screen? Do you think? Here, maybe I can just share this. TV's movies go live. Fucking production quality is goddamn insane, and
I see it.
we're so good. Right, so this was the after party show that we did as like part of the thing. So we have a guy in a chicken costume that's part of the Batsu like ecosystem. It's like the major mascot. You can see the gong in the background too. But we also have this TV over here. And Brian Bouchon Walters, the host of the actual show, is playing the game. But you can see him putting the cards down. Those are coming up on a TV screen behind. And we actually have... You can see it kind of here, like grabbing clips, obviously, for the gram and everything, right? But the TV in the background is playing the trailer for the live show. So
Nice.
it's part of the pitch, especially when we're in New York City, is like, hey, like, welcome to Batsu. Batsu means punishment or penalty in Japanese. This is actually a card game that's based off of a real live show that's been happening in the East Village for the last 11 years. 7 shows a week, sold, and you know, in 7 shows a week throughout the whole time. And during the pandemic, we weren't able to do the live shows, so we ended up in this situation where we were making the card game for it all, right? And our booth is just, you know, trying to be as entertaining, as gripping, and as, you know, as much as possible in those.
You got the gong and the chicken man. How
Dude,
can you
yeah,
beat?
absolutely. But so like the thing is like B2C sales like that as a pitch is not just about, it's not just about telling people about your game. Like, you got to get them excited about it. And like when we're doing the card game stuff, it's like our challenge, like what you would say is like in a card game deck, right? We have challenges, but our challenges actually are different every time. So Brian very nicely put it as there are 22 different games in the form of challenges in our card game. So it's now it sounds more like a 22-in-1 rather than just a straight like, oh, I draw the thing and I do the same thing every time. No. We have 22 different games that you can play, and it changes, and depending on which cards, person, place, or thing get chosen, changes up the experience every single time. So it aims to not get stale in those sides. And
Right.
little things of like, whenever Brian was going to go and talk about getting into like the actual punishment side of things, and it's like, well, if the judge then chooses the worst player, right? The worst player, pause, for a Batsu, right? And like those little beats grip the user in really hard, and you'll see it every single time. Oh, right? Every single time. These moments are humongous, and it really pushed the sale hard, like more and more and more. And that elevator pitch has been refined now from a couple of different things. So these pieces are coming together to really like build in a great like B2C sales pitch. So just thinking along these lines of like, like having the story of your product. How do you take the user from they know nothing about it to getting them excited about it, to, you know, because you know that they're there looking for something. They're there looking for something. They're obviously in games. They're doing something. So you're not like fighting against the wall, but you have to bring them in, and then all of a sudden convert that to a sale in the moment is huge. We had a guy like buy 3 copies. You know what I mean? To give out to friends, and because we were saying like,
Yeah.
you know, hey, it's coming close to Christmas. Like, these are great stocking stuffers, great things to play with your friends around Christmas. And hey, you know, if you get it right now, you don't have to pay shipping, and you know that you have it, right? Blah blah blah. Like,
I like that.
yeah, like, but I swear you could write what we have out on a piece of paper and put in all of the rests, put in all of the beats, and you're just going to go and say it the same time every time. Say it the same way every single time. And refine it whenever things kind of go a little bit lopsided. Little things like never say improv. Never say improv. Improv has too much meaning. Never say improv. If they bring it up, go like, yeah, like that, right? Because maybe then like that's what they're into, but just never say it. So don't even make it a thing. Just even though like theoretically, you know, it's an improv comedy game, right? Like you're improving off of a base that has set the stage for you to try and make something interesting happen, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's the amount of people.
Sorry to cut. So, do you need to go around this time?
Oh crap! How late is it?
Yeah, it's not. It might be time to wrap up, but I don't know. It's your
Oh
call.
no, we're fine. No, we're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I had the times messed up.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
I appreciate you keeping me honest. No, we're good.
Yeah.
No, you're good. But the amount of times, so I didn't even get to go around to the booths, but the girlfriend got to go around, and the amount of times that she walked over to a booth and was like, "Hey, tell me about your game," and they were like, it's a game. It's definitely a game. It's 4 players, and here's a controller if you wanna play. It's like,
Right, right.
yeah, great. Like, get them in, get them playing, but like, have a little more prepared, right? Like, you're the gatekeeper of excitement for your product, and you're trying desperately to get these, individuals who like the play experience to be excited about it. So, work on that, and work on one thing, and see what pieces work, and then start putting that together. And once you have it kind of a little bit more put together, like that spiel, write it down. Write it down, and you'll see it working. You know what I mean? It really does. It really is a different side of sales that I'd never really done before at all,
Totally.
and I've learned so much from just that one experience.
There's so many variables to these, like you said, because there is, it's a mobile game ad or a Steam game ad. It's more formulaic, but man, when you're doing like an in-person sale, there's so many variables. One thing I did was I cut out I cut out this cardboard box and I put it on top of my monitor so that it was gigantic, and it said 8 players just like in giant text so that you could see it across. And it was so ghetto. It was just a cardboard box with markers on it, but I at least I felt that it felt approachable because I know I don't know if I saw like a really social booth and like the guy's like and there's like a guy telling me to come in, like I might just be turned off. Or even if you don't feel that, I'm sure you can certainly imagine somebody who's turned off by that. Like they're more introverted.
That is a weird one, and I actually got called out on that as well too. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a big proponent of like people are just walking around, they're milling around looking for something to do. So I'm
Right.
like, I'm holding the box. Hey, would you like to play a card game? And just like little things like this. But you will find, you know what I mean, at these events, people have autism. People are socially anxious. And
Exactly.
by doing those things and being like the loud, brash person that I am, and just being like, I'm making fucking eye contact with you, right? I'm waving at you, right? They just go and shut down.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they completely shut down. So some people you got to pick out and be like, okay, like you're the one that's gonna work like this. And some I was always trying to figure out, like when I would see groups of guys that I knew were kind of like bros, right? That I was like, you guys look like you like to punish your friends.
Yes.
Like you two look like you punish your friends, right? You look like you like to rip on your peers, right? And I couldn't think of how exactly to say it well, but I always wanted to try and push that fact of like, come on, you're gonna like this. Like you're gonna like this.
Yeah.
And you just
Yeah.
talk to them, and everybody you're speaking to is a little different. You would talk to families a little bit different than you would talk to those
Yes.
groups, and you know, and I think that that's huge too, because the families are always wondering like, is this child appropriate?
Yeah.
And we would
Yeah.
always all of our lines were like, please take a read through the cards. It is ages, what we would say is like 13 and up, but it really comes at the parents' discretion. You're totally fine to take out some of these cards. There's nothing raunchy or crazy in it. It's just a little bit more PG than like young, 5-year-olds to anything else, right? Type of stuff, right? So I think that there's different ways that you'll find things coming in and out, but yeah, I think that it's valuable to do that for that type of stuff too, because when you're going into your pitch decks and you're going into your other
Yeah.
stuff, like grab the media, right? That's almost like half of the reason to be there too. It's like take the pictures, make sure that you have people around your booth, make sure you're, whenever it's busy or whatever it's not, what I mean, make sure that you're grabbing those things because they're just great memories. They're just cool memories, right? Like, 'cause it's just a bit of a fun time, but at the same time, it's making sure that you have that so that you can put them into the decks because it just makes it look like you're active, makes it look like you're trying, and that people seem to be engaging.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Is one of the it's it's hard to say like all the tangible rewards for doing it, but yeah, like I took a bunch of videos and then pieced it together to show the hype around that. And now I do want to warn a little bit against something. So I have seen games where they take a bunch of videos, they're like, and they think they're like, hey, we did really good with this game. We're gonna now go to Steam. This is a real life scenario I've seen a few times now. And in the trailers, they'll also put a bunch of the hype videos on there. So they're really led to believe that, hey guys, look how successful we are at these events. Surely you guys will want to buy into this game, and the game will have no sales. Like it will, and it'll be jarring to them because they're like, man, so many people played our game at our booths, and yeah, now nobody's buying it. So there's this kind of goes back to what you said about convincing people to make the sale in the first place, but it's also a bit of a warning. Again, what moves the needle? It's like, man, even if you had a great booth, doesn't necessarily mean people are going to want to buy on Steam.
Yeah, and I've seen honestly like playcrafting last year. There was this skating game where it was like you're skateboarders, you're made of glass going through like a fever dream basically, right? And overall that thing had a TV, the game, and it was in the indie side, so it was on the cheapest floor position that you could get. But that game had 100,000 wish lists after the fact. This year, that game is looking better than what it was looking last year. The usability feedback has really been implemented, and it's now looking like it's going to be like a really massive, massive, massive hit. So, one of those things where you're just like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? Maybe, it's a good game will sell, right? And you'll know when your premise hits and your visual aspects hit. It'll all kind of come together. And those are kind of like realization moments where you're like, ooh, it's the game's not selling off of the visual. So it's like, what do you do there, right? Like, you do a full art pivot? Do you just stop working on the game altogether? Or do you just keep going and saying, I'm just going to have to push harder, and maybe this just isn't going to be the breakout success that I want it to be? There's definitely some real moments there for sure. On a side thing, right? So they show, at the after party, they show videos of all of the games, and everybody gives like little woos and everything else like that at the end, right? So the whole crowd is like, whoa.
Nice.
Gets to our game. Silence.
Oh.
Silence. Absolute silence. So funny. So funny. Maybe it was the gong. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pure and utter silence. So, you try your best. You do what you can. Maybe sometimes you're just not in the right spaces, but yeah, just don't be discouraged. You just got to keep going and just get the feedback, take it, and if you really see fundamentally that people just aren't engaging or don't care about your product at all, like have a fundamental rethink about your product, how you're pitching it, what you're doing.
I think some people would probably say it's a great place to get feedback for your game, but that's another thing I've warned, which is people are generally pretty nice on face to face. I mean, so take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, but you'll see it when they disengage.
Exactly.
You'll see people. You'll know when people are having fun. Like you'll see it. You know what I mean? You will see it. And they'll be, a lot of time exactly. It's like it's nice, yeah, cool.
Yep,
right,
exactly.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, cool. All right, on to the next one. It's like
right, exactly.
Right. Like you do know, or at least you gotta know. You gotta be realistic with like, fuck, that one didn't go all that well. Okay, what went wrong there? Okay, let's do better for the next one. Okay, and then you just try your best. That's all it is. You know what I mean? Stability is a big thing too. Like, just make sure you have a fucking stable build. Making sure that your game is stable, because when you come up to these things and people start running into bugs almost instantly, it's like you nobody can even get a sense of your game then. You know what I mean? So you need to make sure that the game works, everything is good, and it's not gonna crash out, break, get really out of sync if you're multiplayer or something like that, right? Like these are big moments that you need to prepare for a little bit more in advance as well too,
Yeah.
you know.
And something I want to bring up because a lot of our audience will be indie devs, so we're not just talking about PAX and E3. Obviously, these cost hundreds of or thousands of dollars to attend. There are, I guarantee, no matter what state you're in, there's probably some small event you can do at a college or at some tech center. I don't know. They are there. You just gotta look for them.
Absolutely. And funnily enough, I would say that the booths are kind of cheaper than what you think they are from the indie sections at some of these major events too.
Yeah.
Like I think PAX Unplugged is like maybe a grand, you know what I mean, for a 3 day event, like at PAX, like that's kind of massive. Yes, you are over in the side pits, blah blah blah, but you have to recognize that if you're going to these places as an independent, indie games have been propped up bigger and better than ever before. It's not like nobody's going to go over there. Yeah, sure, they care about the AAA games, but the lines to play those games are going to be so fucking long anyway that, people are going to be going for those bigger experiences. They're going to be wanting to go over to the independent areas and see what's new, what's different. See games that they've never seen before. I think that that's a great place to start trying to capture audiences and everything else like that.
Yeah.
What did you end up doing, um, in terms of trying to retain those users, after the fact, right? Last year we did a whole mailing list. We said like you get some merch, for free if you sign up to our mailing list, and we'll give you some stuff. And we had an iPad with just like, hey, enter your email, blah blah blah, and then that seemed to work, nicely. The QR code for like, hey, go wishlist this game is kind of nice, but people will scan the QR code and look at the Steam page and not necessarily wishlist the game. So it's like your ASO or whatever there, you know what I mean, is a little different, or like your click funnel is a little different there. You can get people to the page, but you can't get them to press the button. So how do you think that you should capture those people that did enjoy your game, or do you just
Yeah.
let them go?
That's a great question. So with booth events, I was just there to have fun. I was just demoing like a random ass prototype. I wasn't even selling it. But I've been in similar situations where I have had a lot of exposure on like Congregate and stuff. Now my games were far from launch, so what I did was I funneled them to Discord.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Hey, you want to just join a community, talk about games, game design, whatever? Just come on in." And I've had, I don't know, maybe 500 some, no, maybe even 1,000 people check out the Discord. So when I analyze games, I, I I'm not 100% sure yet. But when I analyze games and how well they'll do, I do look at how big their Discord is pre-launch.
Mm-hmm.
I think that probably as is at least an indicator of success, but that's something I'm trying to still figure out if that's truly moving the needle or not.
Yeah, Discord is so weird to me, because now that I'm in so many channels, right, that I have to have myself on Do Not Disturb at all times,
Right.
because literally, like, I take myself and put it on online, a notification pops up every 3 seconds from every other channel
I don't
and
look
every
at
other
any
thing.
other channels.
Yeah, so it's like it's so hard because like I want to engage with these things, but I don't care to necessarily go in and like read and see every single update that's ever happened in these new things, and I don't think I can mass turn off notifications as well as I want
Right.
to. Maybe it's in my preferences or something like that, but like yeah, I mean, I just have to keep myself on Do Not Disturb and
Yeah.
not get bothered by it, which this pulls you out of the whole ecosystem, and then you're not looking at it and you're not reading in the channels, and the channels like scroll so fast. Like anyway, it's like that you're if you miss a day, it's like you might have missed whole conversations that now you just like, all right, well, I'm just reading and I'm more partaking that way rather than like getting in and actually like communicating,
Yeah.
right?
So you're right. I do think it's a lot weaker than a mailing list in terms of if you do need to send something out and get eyeballs in. So for me, it was more just a low friction thing to just be a part of something until like I actually put out the game. So yeah, that was the route I chose.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all I got. It was a fun weekend overall, but you're totally right. Like, it's just you're doing it more for the fun, doing it for more of the exposure, get the game out there, talk about it, get more used to talking about it, seeing how it works in the wild. And also then just trying to really, really, really make better connections with the other groups, studios that are all around you. These people
Yes.
are your peers. They are doing the same thing that you are doing, and you should respect that. It's not an ego thing between groups, teams, or booths or games. It's just a matter of propping everybody up and being able to then maybe knowledge share later on of like, hey, like, how'd your launch go? Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah, nice. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
you can pull little bits of information. Maybe they made a connection that they can share on to you. I think that those things are honestly pretty great. And get in
Yeah.
with the media groups then too as well. Because they'll take pictures, they'll take videos, they'll do interviews, they'll put them up independently on their own platforms, on their own places. And that just helps your search terms. Even if they only get like 30 views or something like that, it's still kind of worth your time, I think.
Right. And for local events, usually you can get a booth for free.
Hmm.
And the same thing as what you said, which is like your literal peers are there, your literal people in your city and surrounding area that are doing this too. Those people are super valuable. They'll probably lead you to a job if you're like doing that sort of job networking. So get with your local communities and do that stuff. It's usually free. So that's
Absolutely.
my recommend.
All right. Thank you so much, Calvin.
Thank you.
Enjoy yourself and have a great rest of your afternoon.